respond. There we go.
So hello, Soulies. So tonight is the live Q&A, and I'm here with Deborah J. Kelly, who is our expert of the month and has done an amazing class on soul navigation and astrology. And we're kind of here on our own tonight. So I've twisted Deborah's arm and she has created my birth chart for me. So we're going to delve into it and see what comes up. And I'm going to sort of say if the kind of traits kind of fit in with me. She's already told me a little bit, which is quite interesting. So I'm excited to find out. So hi, Deborah.
Hello. Yeah, so we're going to take a look around the birth chart. Those who are looking at the course will actually see that I've included a bonus video which will talk them through what the actual chart, what they're looking at. So the layout of the birth chart and what it is that they can uncover in it, because this may or may not make sense to them unless they've watched that video. So this is a nice way of like pushing you towards watching that video. But also just to say that so like I do 2-hour soul navigation sessions and they take about 5 hours of prep work for me. So for anybody listening to this, I can't go in too deep because this is kind of like a spur of the moment thing. So we don't, I have to, I would have to go off and do a bit of work on it, but we'll have a look and see what we can see. And this is you, Penelope.
It looks like me.
So basically, so what we're looking at is the moment that you're born, the moment that you come into this lifetime, all the planets are in the sky in a particular position. And this is almost like a snapshot of the moment that you're born and where the planets are in the sky. So what we're looking at on the outside is all the different signs, so all the different zodiac signs. You're looking at then these spokes of the bike are basically or these kind of like pizza slices. They're all the different houses. So they're the different areas of life that our chart falls in. So you'll see where the planets are drawing your attention to particular areas of life that will be important. And the parts that have no planets in them, it's not that they're not important, it's just that in this lifetime for you specifically, your attention and focus will be on specific areas that have planets in them. So some people, when I'm doing a reading, will have like loads of planets here and none in the rest of the chart. That doesn't mean that there's nothing else happening. Other people will have them quite spread out. And again, if we're doing a 2-hour session, we'd be looking at the modalities, the polarities, the elements, the whole lot. So we won't go into that too much here. But basically what we're looking at here, this little guy here is the sun. So the sun is in Libra. So you're Libra. So everybody knows their sun sign as I'm Libra, I'm Virgo, I'm Scorpio, whatever. So this is basically what we're talking about. But we're every single planet. We're not just our sun sign. We're every single planet. So your sun is in Libra, which means for you, the expression of who you are, Libra is all about balance. It's about the scales. It's about justice, equality. It's about, because Libra is an air sign, it'll be a lot to do with like the intellect and to do with like how, the more about beauty in terms of art versus beauty in terms of nature, which will actually come up for you as well because you're Taurus rising. So which I'll talk about in a minute, but Taurus also is ruled by the same planetary ruler as Libra, which is Venus. So if you think about Venus, it's all about love and romance and the senses and about harmony and balance and peace. You can kind of see where Taurus and Libra share these qualities of Venus together. So yeah, keeping the peace and harmony is very important for Libra. Libra is also, because it's an air sign, Libra's superpower as such is the ability to, what's the right word, to be able to be objective, looking at a situation from both sides. Now, the problem with that, and it's a superpower because it's great because it means that you can see other people's perspective and point of view in order to be able to keep that peace. But Libra's complication is also that they are so busy with trying to keep the peace that they can't make their mind up. It's a bit like, oh, I don't know how to make this decision because if I do it, then this person is upset. And if I do this, then this person's upset. So Libra can be maybe sometimes not very good at making their mind up or being decisive because they want to keep the peace. So it's not because they don't know what they want, but it's because they don't know how to keep that equilibrium. So you have, so that's Libra, and then your moon is in Sagittarius. Now you're born at nighttime. born at 7:10 p.m. So we know this also, apart from knowing your time, because this is kind of like the horizon, and this is below the horizon. So you'll see that the sun is below the horizon. Sun is already set. So for you, because you're a nighttime baby, and because the moon is in the top half of the chart, it actually means for you, the moon will probably resonate more for you even than the sun will. So the moon is in Sagittarius. It's a fire sign. It's a mutable fire sign. And the moon by itself, its emotions kind of wax and wane, and kind of, if you can imagine, the kind of moon goes from a new moon to a full moon and wax and wanes in between. So it changes a lot. It's very, very changeable. Out of all the planets, the moon takes about 2 to 2.5 days to move through every single sign, whereas other ones can take years at a time to go through one sign. So if the moon is moving through each sign every 2.5 days, it's changing its characteristics and traits, and it's kind of like the tide coming in and going out. It's always changing. So our moon is to do with our emotions and our feelings. So your moon is where you're kind of most emotionally secure, where you feel most emotionally safe, and it kind of tells you what you're like in your interior world or your inner world. So with that in mind, because your moon is the more important of, say, the moon and sun, not that it's more important, but it'll represent you more. Your moon in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is all about higher mind, higher wisdom, the search for meaning and purpose. It's the centaur galloping off into the wild and wanting to shoot its arrow of wisdom out to figure out, what is this whole life thing about? Like, how can I, and it's about freedom as well. Like, it's very much, Sagittarius energy is it's fire, and it's like very lively, and it doesn't want to be pinned down. Commitment can sometimes be a thing for Sagittarius as well, because they like to be free, running out on the rain all the time. But also with Sagittarius, they're truth seekers. So for them, wisdom and higher education, higher mind stuff is more important than, say, like, trying to find the facts, as opposed to Gemini would be very much like trying to figure out the facts. Sagittarius is like standing up on a soapbox, has it all figured out, and now wants to tell everybody. So Geminis and Sagittarius are opposite each other, and quite often can frustrate each other, because Sagittarius just wants to stand on the soapbox and like tell the world about, how everything is and how it's supposed to be. And Gemini's like, yeah, but where's your facts on that? Like,
It's just so weird that you've said that, because I think the Libra in me really, like, all I want is like a soulmate relationship. But then there's another part of me that has huge commitment fears. And it's just like, I'm so used to being so independent. I don't understand how I can allow somebody in.
Yeah.
But I literally love learning. I mean, everything. I mean, the whole reason why I started this membership was because I love everything to do with your life's purpose, soul growth, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I've started the university course as well. I'm doing my degree in metaphysics. So I totally resonate with all that.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because your moon is in the 8th house. So that's all Sagittarius. The moon in the 8th house is very much, it can be kind of a tricky placement, because the 8th house is unseen. I kind of liken the unseen houses to having the light switched off. It's not very easy to figure out what's going on there. The 8th house is all to do with power struggles. It's to do with intensity. It's to do with other people's money. It's to do with life, death, and rebirth. It's to do with transformation, the occult. It's to do with sex and taboo subjects. It's the home of Scorpio. So Scorpio is all about the deep, hidden mysteries of life. It's also a house that's intensely involved in healing. So to have the moon, which by its nature is a very healing planet and operates heavily on intuition, to have the moon in the 8th house, where there are secrets to be uncovered and there is healing to be had from uncovering those secrets. It's very much the sign of a therapist or somebody who is very good at getting to the heart of a problem, or getting to the heart of other people's problems in order for therapeutic effect or some sort of transformation to occur. Because the 8th house is transformation, and your moon is in the house of transformation. It's in the house of other people's transformation. So your moon, your emotional comfort and your emotional what gives you emotional security is helping other people's transformation also. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, I even said that like in my group the other day, because I really struggled the first part of the year. I just felt flat. I'd lost my mojo and everything. And I was like, the thing that really lights me up though is helping other people.
Yeah.
That's one thing that makes me feel good. Even when I feel crap, it just literally lights me up.
Yeah. So that's because your moon is there. So when we ignore our moon, that's when we can get depressed. You know, think about when the moon is not in the sky, everything's a bit dark and bleak and it's hard to see. And, you know, you can't really, if you went out at nighttime, yeah, you'd have to wait for your eyes to adjust, but it would be hard to see. So when our moon is illuminated, we can see so much more what our emotions and feelings are about. And think about the new moon to full moon. When the new moon is completely dark in the sky, that's when you sow your seeds. When you've got your full moon, that's when you see what you've sown come into fruition. So when you're not tending to the needs of your moon, when you don't know what, I actually think knowing what your moon is really important for people. Like there's a whole pop culture of moon stuff out at the moment, and it kind of bugs me a little bit because, you know, there's another 9 other planets there to be played with. But knowing your moon is important because of it tells you what you need to feel nourished in your soul. And for you to feel nourished in your soul, you need to have freedom. You need to be discussing higher mind stuff. You need to have, you need to be figuring out that, you know, to have a chat and with somebody who's not into the bigger meaning and the kind of purpose of life would be a bit like, it'll be like, I need to have this conversation. I need to go. And also you're in the 8th house, which is depth. Like your moon needs to go deep. You know, there's quite scorpionic flavors to where your moon is. It's not Scorpio moon, but you've got kind of scorpionic flavors to it.
So that's I get really intense with, I think I'm really intense with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that's your moon as well. Like, so again, this is why when I'm doing a soul navigation session for somebody and I look at things like their modalities and their elements and whatever, and their polarities as well, like it can quite often tell somebody who feels that they should be an extrovert because the world tells them they should be an extrovert. It can show them that you're not an extrovert, you know, and it's okay to be. And then suddenly they're like, oh, it's because my such and such is in such a place, you know, and it actually helps people to feel a lot better. So that's your moon. Also, moon and Sag means Sagittarius can be quite blunt, right? So if you want to know the answer to something, if you want to know the answer truthfully, ask a Sag. If you want somebody to give you a nice fluffy answer, don't ask a Sag because they're going to give you the most blunt answer ever. But it's from their heart and they mean it with love. But they're truth seekers. You know, if you want the answer, they'll give it to you.
Funny because my mum is a Sagittarian and my boyfriend's a Sagittarius as well, but I have been described as an iron fist in a velvet glove because I'm really blunt when I need to be. And sometimes with my clients as well, I go, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm just going to tell you how this is. It might hurt a little.
Yeah, because Sagittarius can't leave the truth sitting there idle. It's like the truth is there to be used and it's for the benefit of other people. And for Sagittarius to know what the truth is, to see what the truth is for somebody else and not say it just doesn't work. It's like, and it's almost like they don't know how to deliver it because they just need to get it out, like, you know. But also, so in terms of Scorpio is your we're going to look at your ascendant now in a minute, but and we'll look at Scorpio with that. But because Scorpio is on the cusp of your 7th house, this is your 7th house here. Scorpio is all about intense depth, the detective, truth seeking, getting to the depths of a problem. 1 and 2 equals 3. Yeah, but why? I need to know more. Not taking things at face value, not really trusting people. The darker side of Scorpio tends to be obsession and jealousy and kind of even, you know, getting back at people and stuff like that. Has a negative side to it. It depends on its aspects. However, in saying that, it's also, I'm Scorpio rising, so I love Scorpio. And I have a nice soft to Scorpio. But Scorpio, when we have it in our 7th house, can mean that you attract those type of partners, or that's what you're like with those partners. So you'll find that you're attracting Scorpionic type partners. So people who might be jealous, people who might be obsessive, people who might be controlling, people who might be manipulative. When you become aware of that, then what happened, the reason that we attract these people is because we haven't owned that which it is that they're bringing into our life. So because we're going to look at Taurus ascendant, but it'll make kind of sense. But basically, when we attract people into our life, we're attracting them because we need the mirror to see in them, through them, what it is that we've disowned in ourselves. And when we can own it in ourselves and see what it is that we're attracting, then we can address that, let it go, and it doesn't have to be an issue anymore. So while Scorpio may be on the 7th house and you may be prone to attracting those kind of people, personally, my feeling is that you don't have to keep attracting those people when you make conscious the reasons that you're attracting them, because of the fact that it's Scorpio on the 7th house.
That is just, I would say that's the lessons I've learned recently. So I was attracting narcissists and controlling people and things like that. I feel like I've moved out of that phase now. And actually one of the girl who's teaching the masterclass next month, she has coached me through that. But one of the things that I always used to be really jealous, and I've noticed that shift has changed with this new relationship. I don't have that jealous streak anymore. So I do feel like I've grown a little bit.
Yeah. And like when we're attracting narcissists into our lives, it's usually, again, like it's not because you're a bad person, it's because there's a mirror. It's showing you something which you have not owned in yourself. Now, when you're talking about Scorpio, it's a lot to do with power. Like Scorpio is very, very powerful. And if you are attracting narcissistic people into your life, you've actually handed over your power. And for you, having that in your 7th house, there's a need to own that power, and therefore you don't need somebody else to own that power. So when you can finally own that power for yourself, you don't need somebody else to come into your life to show you how you're not owning that power. And therefore, when you own that power, the universe goes, well, there's no point in giving her that anymore because she's learned it, so there's no point in giving you a mirror for something that you've now owned. And so you have integrated that into yourself, and now you can attract and bring in partners that align more with what you need in other areas of your life. Yeah.
Awesome.
So Taurus rising. So basically, as I said, you've got your sun is who you are. Your moon is more like the interior world, or what you need emotionally secure, or for emotional security. The rising sign is very much like it's the lens through which you see the world and the lens through which the world sees you. So quite often when we meet somebody, we actually might see them more so as their rising sign than their moon or sun or any of your other, stelliums or anything else like that they would have. When we get to know people more, then we start to see their sun and their moon. But initially we get to know them as their rising sign. So for you, Taurus is your rising sign. This is also how we come into the world. So we come into the world. This is literally the moment that you came in. So chances are your birth was slow and it took you time to come out. Taurus is very like stubborn, it's very slow, very methodical, but when it gets going, it's like the bull, nothing's going to stop it. So if you ask your mum, you might find that the early part of the pregnancy or the labor was probably very slow, but then actually when you got going, it all kind of speedballed from there, if you know what I mean. Taurus can also be, so Taurus is very much about the senses. It's about your sight, touch, smell, sound, the whole lot. It's also, Taurus is the sign under which Buddha was born, died, had a stellium of planets, and was enlightened under. So actually Taurus rising is about the third eye, and it's very much about enlightenment. So when we're looking at the rising sign, we're actually looking at the soul purpose. We're looking at so as opposed to the North Node being much more linked to your life purpose or your life mission, your ascendant is much more to do with the background of why I came here in the first place, and then how do I live up to that and how do I make that real? You do it through your sun and your moon and your other planets. So your rising sign is like literally the starting point of where you came in. So Taurus rising is about attaining enlightenment, but Taurus is very much all about your creature comfort needs. So Taurus is very much like, as long as I have the bills paid, I have food in and I've water there, I'm sorted, grand, now I can go sleep and watch Netflix on the couch, right? That's Taurus. Taurus are Taurus can be quite spiritually lazy, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that Taurus themselves are very preoccupied with getting their creature comforts met, and their security and their safety needs met. So Taurus need to feel safe and secure through material possessions usually, or through objects and the material world, because it's an earth sign. So because all the earth signs are very much to do with things that are practical, things that are tangible, that you can touch, the material things. So when we see somebody and we see, oh, they're so materialistic, you have no idea what's going on in that person's chart. Chances are it's probably to do with Taurus, because Taurus identifies itself through possessions and values. Or, you know, and the way usually Taurus in childhood will learn from the parents that either mom and dad will have been maybe very conscious about spending, or about, you know, the value of things or possessions, and so the child can quite often see, they learn from the parents that it's important to have possessions, and that it's important to accrue things around you for identity, so you feel you've some sense of identity. Or it can feel, the child can sometimes feel like that there was a lack of security financially, or that there was a lack of material security as a child. So we can play out one of kind of two ways, you know. Does that make sense?
I do like my material things, yeah.
Yeah, and that's totally Taurus, because Taurus sees itself and identifies itself through these things. Now, also Taurus is ruled by Venus, so it's very important for Taurus's surroundings, their senses, to be in a place that is beautiful, Venus. So Taurus's senses, you know, it could be nice perfumes, it could be nice incense and oils. I know you do oils. It might be to do with, like, it's not Libra, your sun in Libra being ruled by Venus is much more to do with fashion, and to do with, like, how do I look and how do I appear. Like Libra people will always look amazing. Like they'll always be wearing really nice clothes, their makeup will be done, they'll always look very they look after how they appear, because appearances, Venus in Libra, an air sign, is much more to do with social status. So because air is a very sociable element versus earth being a very grounded, nature-based element, you've got this play between the two. So you've one side of you which is very much like, how do I appear and how do I look to the public and how amazing do I look, which is not a bad thing at all. That's just the sun in Libra wanting, the sun in Libra wants to look good because it makes other people feel good. You know, it is a social thing. But then Taurus is like beautiful things. Do you see the difference between the Venuses? One is an earthy Venus of like beautiful things, and one is a sociable, beautiful fashion Venus.
So my social media presence is always kind of, I try to be done and polished and things like that, but my Taurus at home, happy with a roof over my head, heating and electric or whatever, is in Primark fleecy pajamas. Let me tell you, it's very down to earth.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful though? Look at the juxtaposition of that. And for somebody who would have, say, your chart, but their ascendant wouldn't be Taurus, and they say didn't have any planets in Taurus, they would just be into the fashion. You know, they'd be like, I'm into the fashion, like to look good, like my stuff to look good. It's all about, it's very much trend. It's more to do with fashion and trend, and not even labels. It's just, it's like keeping ahead. Like, you know, air is quick and it's fast, and it's very much about keeping up with the newest thing that's happening. So that person would not be necessarily more earthy and more Taurus based at home. They would have everything at home would be amazing, and, you know, all like labeled up and whatever as well, you know.
It's quite funny though, because I hoard things as well. I don't like to get rid of things just in case I need them.
That's so Taurus. Taurus is a total hoarder. Taurus is a collector.
Oh, that's what I do. And yeah. I've got all my beautiful Tom Ford makeup, and I don't touch it. It's all still in its boxes all there. I just like to look at it.
So it's interesting because Taurus is a collector. Right. They can hoard things, not as much with Chiron in Taurus. You don't have Chiron in Taurus, but they can hoard things, but more from a collector's standpoint. And probably out of anything, they love stones. They love collecting like natural things or stones. But what's interesting for you is, yeah, and you with your crystals, it would be the same thing. But what's interesting for you is the other things that you're collecting are Libra based. They're Libra. You know, the other kind of fashion accessories that you're collecting are more to do with your Libra sun. But see how the two of them have like they're sharing the same planet, and they're kind of like meeting each other in different ways. It's very interesting. So the idea of Taurus, or the sole purpose of Taurus, and why you are here in this lifetime, is to transcend the senses, to transcend the pleasures of the senses, to use the opposite sign of Scorpio. So Scorpio is all about searching the depths and the darkness for light and bringing that back to humanity. So it's like bringing light to the darkness. Okay. So Taurus, because Taurus can be a bit spiritually lazy because they just want to have their needs met, need to use the opposite sign of Scorpio to pull them out of their comfort zone so that they kind of work spiritually. And how they do that is Taurus, because it's all about the senses, can get lost in that. So Taurus can get lost in like amazing food, amazing drink, and everything needs to be rich and lovely and tasty and beautiful. And it can be nearly like an indulgence of the senses. So what it needs to do is transcend that by understanding through Scorpio that there's a higher mind, that there's a higher reason that we're here, and that we can use the senses instead of being a physical thing, to use them as portals to access higher realms and our spiritual side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that's all about. So it's also how we start things. So how we came in, if you look at your birth, and anybody who's listening to this, if you know what your birth was like, and your zodiac sign will tell you what it was like. Like I'm Scorpio rising. For me, it was life, death, or rebirth. So there was challenge for me when I was born. So you know, Aries will just fly out like that. Aries will be like a really quick birth.
My daughter, she just flew out.
Yeah.
The other one took 3.5 days to come out. So maybe she's Taurus.
It could be Taurus, or it could be Capricorn, or might have been Scorpio with challenges, or it could be like, there's loads of different ways of looking at it. But how we're born tends to be how we start things. So whether it's starting a new project, starting a new job, starting dinner, starting study, starting whatever it is, it tends to be how we approach things. So you'll find that you're probably quite like, it takes you a while to get started. You might like not do it just because somebody tells you to do it. Like, you know, Taurus is very stubborn. It will make up its own mind when it wants to do something. It won't be told. And even if it wants to do the thing that it's told, it'll do it in its own time. It might do it an hour later, but it'll do it on its own terms. And that tends to be how we start things. So if somebody says, would you go over and start that project? You'll be like, I'll do it in my own sweet time. And then you might do it like 2 minutes later, but it'll be under your own steam, you know.
Do you want me to tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
So my mum got called into the headmaster's office when I was at prep school. And she went in and he said, Mrs. Marshall, he said, we've got a problem with Penelope today. So she said, oh, Mr. Bonner, what is it today? What's she done today? And he said, this is her exam that she sat this morning. So my mum looked at it, and it just had my name and the date at the top. And she said, yes. And he goes, well, she's not done it. So she said, what did she say? Why she hadn't done it? And apparently I turned around to the teacher and I said, the way I'm feeling today, Mr. Ward, that's the best you're going to get out of me. So yeah, that sums that up, what you just said.
Like, I'll do it in my own sweet time.
When I'm ready. Whenever I like it.
And you'll find when you look back on everything that you do, it's the same way. It's like, it may be slow to start, but like the bull in the field, like Taurus is like the bull in the field. When you get going, you're unstoppable. And that's very, very Taurus. So let me see, what else have you got going on? So you've got Chiron in Aries in the 12th house. So Chiron is the wounded healer. So this little key shape here. Yeah. So Chiron basically was I won't even bother going into the history of it, because I'm sure not everybody loves the history of all these things, but basically Chiron is the wounded healer. So tends to be where we ourselves have wounding through past lives or through our childhood, and we then use that to help heal others. So sometimes with Chiron, it can be a case of I will do for others what I never was able to do for myself, or I'll do for others because I cannot do for myself. Or so your expression, it's not living your life out through somebody else, which we need to be careful of. It's not the same thing. It's not a projection. It's more to do with I know that I'm really good at this, but I don't seem to be able to do it in the way that I'd like to be able to do it. And now I can see somebody who wants to do this thing, and so I can help them do it. Or it may be that you've mastered it yourself and now you help people to do it.
Well, like a bit like I can't do it for myself, but I can do it for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
So where you'll actually find that, I'm just going to close the window. So where you'll find that carrying out is in your 12th house, and it's in Aries. Now, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So Aries is, even though it's in your 12th house, it's the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is very like an Aries child is the one that runs into the sitting room and takes over the remote control, completely oblivious to anybody else watching the program that was on before. They'll just come in, take over the remote control and change channel. Totally oblivious. They kind of jump in with 2 feet and then ask questions later. So that can kind of get us in trouble a little bit, but it can also be great for, like, Aries is very much about like just like pioneering, carving the way forward, like let's get this done, moving ourselves forward. They're not leaders like Leo are. They're more pioneers, so they will cover ground that other people haven't covered before. And other people will follow them, but it's more about them kind of like charging forward to like do new things, to discover new things, to create new plans. But Aries are very like, they've ran 20 miles ahead, they've got the ball, they drop it, and then they're like, where's everybody else? Like, why isn't everybody here to pick up the ball for me? And it's because they've charged on. They haven't even looked behind them to see if anybody's following. They just go do. And then when they drop the ball and expect somebody else to pick it up, they're a bit confused why other people haven't kept up with them. So Aries can be, the wounding quite often in Aries, with Chiron in Aries, can be to the self. It's almost like a healthy Aries will understand all these things and then learn to work, kind of they'll mature with that as they get older. But with Chiron there's like a wound to it. So it's like in childhood, you might have gotten in trouble for like doing your own thing, where a healthy Aries will do their own thing, and it will come out with a good outcome because they're like pioneering the way forward. A kind of like a wounded Aries will want to do that but feel that they can't, because in childhood, in some way, shape or form, they've been berated for it. They got in trouble for it. They got in trouble for doing things without thinking about other people, or they got in trouble for like taking over the remote control, or they got in trouble for like starting something, a project or something, and then they were kind of shut down. They weren't supported, you know. Does that make sense? Or yeah. So then what Chiron needs to do is figure out, and also because it's traditionally, or not traditionally, more contemporarily, Aries not the rules the first house, but they have a lot of similarities. So it can be to do with, there can be wounding to your personality, there can be wounding to your person, to you, there can be something physically wounding, there can be head wounds, because Aries rules the head, so there can be some sort of head trauma that has happened. All these different things can play out as well. So there are other kind of parts of the whole Aries story. And then also because it's in the 12th house. So did that make sense to you? Or
Yeah.
So Chiron in the 12th house. So the 12th house it's another hidden house, but it is the hidden house. Okay. So all the other houses in astrology have the lights turned on to some extent. 12th house is, I kind of liken it to going into a room filled with like lots of treasure and lots of junk, right? Good, bad, and the ugly. Everything's in there. But the lights are off, the bulb is broken, the light switch is broken, and you're not going to see anything. You kind of have to feel your way around. So the 12th house is very much this, it's a very spiritual, it's kind of like being in the spiritual realms, okay? It's where we go when we need to retreat. So you'll find that because you've got Chiron there, that you need to retreat, that it's important for you to take time out. With Chiron in the 12th as well, there can be this, the 12th house is like the collective. It's the house of karma. It's the house of self-sacrifice. It's the house of martyrdom. It's the house of institutions. Or so like you might find that in past lives you were maybe locked up somewhere, you're imprisoned, you're institutionalized, you're incarcerated, you were in a hippie commune, you're in a church or in a monastery, you're in an ashram, so see the way all these are like very enclosed, very segregated places of isolation. The 12th house represents these things. And it's also representing spirituality. So you might find in your past lives that you've come from isolation, you've come from being hidden away, and so it feels more comfortable for you to be hidden away. But because Chiron is there, it can sometimes feel a little bit unsafe at times, because psychically the 12th house operationally and kind of more functionally would be that there's like this connection to other realms, a spiritual connection to other realms. When we've got Chiron there, it can feel like, why is God forsaken me? Or how can I connect to these other realms? Or why can I not feel my way in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely do need to retreat and be on my own for sure. But one of the running themes through my life is that I feel I've felt trapped. And I think that's a past life thing.
Yes.
I hate it. It's like the biggest fear of being trapped.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly it. So Chiron in the 12th says that, and also the 12th house, if the ascendant is where we're born into, the 12th house is where we've come from, or at least that's kind of how I view it. So this feeling of being trapped that would be very Chiron. That would be like, but now that you know what that is, if you were to work on that and go back and do things like tapping and journaling, whatever, to kind of work back through that, to tease it out. It's a bit like, I see these things a bit like brushing your hair with a big knot in it. Like if you keep at it long enough, the knot will come out and you won't have, ripped a big ball of hair out. So Chiron in the 12th, with that fear of being trapped, or that discomfort of being stuck or like immobilized and disempowered, is actually going to be really important for you, because you've got the North Node in Scorpio. North Node in Scorpio means that it's all to do with empowerment, So in the 12th house, there's a disempowerment, there's a martyrdom, there's an ability to self-sacrifice to yourself, perhaps to an extent where you feel imprisoned.
Oh God, yeah, in my marriage, for sure.
Yeah. And
the funny thing was, he did used to like to hide me away as well. He sort of, I was away from my friends and my family and stuff like that. He just wanted me to be at home all the time. Yeah, felt trapped like in a gilded palace kind of thing.
Amazing. So also Scorpio and Aries share the same traditional co-ruler, which is Mars. So Scorpio is ruled by Pluto contemporarily, but it's also co-ruled by Mars, and Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is to do with like intensity, aggression, fire, like that kind of impulsive energy. You've got it in the second house, which is all to do with self-worth, self-value, money, finances, your money, your finances, your self-worth. So you'll find that the themes of your relationships ruled by Scorpio with Mars in the second house, and you'll find that your themes of isolation, retreat, self-sacrifice, martyrdom, all that kind of stuff from the 12th house that we were just talking about is also going to play out through that Mars. So see the way your Taurus and Libra have Venus sharing together, and you've got this kind of like little marriage between the two of them. We've got Aries and Scorpio have also got the same co-ruler, so the same flavor has kind of been like funneled in through here through your second house.
Interesting.
And then when we look at the North Node, so the North Node, you've got the North and the South Node. So the South Node isn't shown, but it's directly polar opposite the North Node. So if the North Node is in Scorpio, it means the South Node is going to be in Taurus, because Taurus is the opposite sign of Scorpio. And also, sorry, with Chiron, this is a new thing that I started to try out, and it seems to be reasonably scarily accurate. When Chiron, depending on the number of degrees that it's at, it tends to be where the wounding came from. So you're 26 degrees of Aries. So it may mean that at 26 months, 26 minutes after you're born, or the age of 26, you'll find that there was that Chiron wounding happened. That's where there was something happened that would have started that Chiron wound.
Well, yeah, that's when I met him. So.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I love it. This is so new. I had a guy the other day, he didn't know his time. So we had to fit his chart. We managed to get his time, and he had Chiron right on his ascendant at 9 degrees of Taurus, actually. And I was saying to him that his wounding is directly linked to his birth. And because Chiron was right on the ascendant, right on the moment he was born. And I said it was going to either be 9 minutes, 9 months, 9 weeks, 9 years, whatever. And he was like, yeah, he goes at 9 months. My mum tried to kill me.
Oh my God.
So that was directly linked. And it was because as a baby, due to his birth, the way that he was birthed, because of the wounding he had in birth, caused him to cry all the time. And when he cried all the time, mum had postnatal depression. Her sign was Cancer in the 4th house, which is very interesting because it could be linked to postnatal depression, which was in his chart. And that's exactly what happened. She had postnatal depression, and she tried to kill him at 9 months.
Wow.
So like, that's how accurate it is. That's amazing to hear. Yeah. So you're 26 years. So that's when that would have kicked in for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
So then one of the other things that I look at when I'm doing soul navigation session is the North and South Node. So I said the North and South Node. So the North Node is where you want to go to in this life. Think about the North Star. It's not the same thing, but it's like where you want to head, where I follow the North. Your South Node is where you're coming from. So when you've come from your South Node, it means that in loads of past lives, you've been on learning these skills, and the skills that you have in your South Node, they just come easy to you. They're so easy that you don't even know that you have these skills. And it's really easy to stay there, but you don't really have a whole lot of fulfillment. So what we want to do is move out of our South Node using the skills that we've learned, move out of our South Node towards our North Node, where it's more uncomfortable because we haven't learned these skills yet, but we're more happy there because when we carry out the North Node, we get a lot of satisfaction out of it. So what do I mean? Basically, South Node is where we are most comfortable but least happy. North Node is where we're least comfortable but most happy. So it's the opposite. So your South Node would be in the 1st house. That means that in terms of you as a person, so the 1st house is all about me, I, my personality, my physical appearance, my who I am, and in terms of your personality and who you are. So you're more comfortable when you're focused probably on yourself and doing your own thing, and like whether it's whether it's learning about yourself or developing yourself, a personal growth, or whether it's about literally your physical appearance or your personality or whatever it is, anything to do with that side of things, you'll be most comfortable in, but you won't be as fulfilled there. So in this lifetime, your North Node is in your 7th house. So for you in this lifetime, it's actually important for you to understand that relationships are a feature. So you're actually meant to go from being, I'm independent, I can do my own thing, I'm very, I don't need to depend on anybody else, I can I can totally provide for myself. I'm independent, to being a little bit more dependent. Now, not codependent, but dependent. So
that's really interesting, because I've just been learning about interdependence. And so that's where I'm trying to move to at the moment. So being independent, but allowing people to help me a little bit, and being able to ask for help as well.
Yes. Yeah. So the 7th house is ruled by Libra. So you have the help of your sun in Libra. It's not the same thing, but it will help you in terms of that house. But your mission in this lifetime, in terms of your North Node, part of your goal is to be able to be in relationship with somebody else while not losing your South Node independence and skills and all those kind of, like, being able to focus on yourself, being able to be in a relationship with somebody else. And exactly as you were saying, that interdependence, it's not codependence, but it's interdependence, so that there's equilibrium, there's balance, there's yin and yang, there's masculine and feminine, and you can be in your masculine and feminine, and he can be in his masculine and feminine. You can kind of like have this dance that comes about with relationships. So that's really, really important for you. Because your North Node is in Scorpio, it also means, and your South Node is in Taurus, it means that you're more comfortable having your creature comforts met, and less comfortable with the spiritual world. But when you do delve into the spiritual world, it means that you're more content and more happy. Now, you're already in that, so this can be stuff it's part of your life. So a lot of the time when I'm doing this with people, they've either started doing it, or they're about to start doing it, or they've already been doing it. So that's very much also about power as well. Like, Scorpio is about power. Scorpio is about intense power. So it'll be very important for you to learn how to handle intense power in your relationships, or the dynamic power play in relationships, and how to own that, but how to also share that. So what else have we got going on? So then also you've got a stellium in the 6th house. A stellium is where we have a number of planets, a big group of planets, like usually more than 3, like 3 or 4 planets in one house. And basically it just means that you're being asked to pay attention to that area. So because you've got a stellium of planets in the 6th house, the 6th house is important for you. Now, the 6th house is all to do with work and service to others. So you'll find, in terms of where you shine the most in terms of your sun, where you communicate best, because Mercury is all about communication. Your Mercury is combust the sun as well. So communication is really important for you. But could sometimes, but it might, let me see, is that opposite? No, it's not. So communication is really important for you, but because it's hidden behind the sun and nearly combusts the sun, it can be burnt up by the sun. It can mean that it can be a challenge sometimes also, because Mercury is to do with thoughts, communication. It's to do with taking ideas and bringing them out into the world. It's the teacher. It's how we take in information and assimilate it and turn it into something. And when it's combust the sun, it's almost like the rays of the sun get in the way of you being able to do that properly. It could also mean that your way of showing who you are and like how you light yourself up in the world can come through communicating about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
tell you what I do. I take information in and almost change it. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's to do with this stellium thing, but so like if someone says something to me, by the time it's gone into my head, I've almost like turned it into something else almost.
So that could be the qualities of the sun. The sun is creative force, so it could be to do with the sun taking in the information and creating something different with it.
Right.
But also you have your 6th house is Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Virgo is all about taking in information, pulling it apart, putting it back together, and then making it of use for, in terms of using it to be of service to other people. Does that make sense? So your 6th house ruler, which is all about work and service to others, it's about your health and the whole lot of it. Your ruler is actually in the 6th house. So your communication needs to be of service to other people. So you're taking it in and you're assimilating it, breaking it up, looking at how to make it function better, because that's what Virgo does. Virgo analyzes and then takes it apart, puts it back together, makes it more efficient and effective for the use of others. And it's in your 6th house of work and service to others and health. So it actually would be beneficial for you to be able to use your word to be able to help others or for the health of others as well.
Well, that's good, because I'm writing a book. So
there you go. And you're writing a book. So let me see. The 9th house is all to do with publications. So what have we got? You've Capricorn. How many degrees is that? Yeah, like your 9th house is Capricorn. Capricorn's like hard work, authority, responsibility. It's like the mountain goat kind of trying to make its way to the top. So you'll find if you're writing a book, it'll be very much about is it a business book?
It's just about chakras.
Is it? Yeah, but will it be coming from a business perspective? No.
Well, I don't know. I was going to write a book about my experiences, but I can't bring myself to do it.
So the 9th house, because it's Capricorn is very business related, and it's very it's all about structures and finance and business and all that kind of thing. So you have it in your 9th house, and your ruler is in the 4th in Leo. So if you're writing a book, it would also make sense for it to be an authority on, well, 4th house can be to do with roots as well and ancestors. So unless it's something to do with that, but it's just interesting because it seems more businessy to me if you're writing a book, but that doesn't mean it's not.
I'm an authority in business yet. I don't, maybe in about 10 years, I don't know, when I've got a bit more experience under my belt.
Let me see what else. So that's kind of, the thing with the astrology is you can go deep. It's like a rabbit hole. You can just keep going deep.
Honestly, this has been amazing. It's so enlightening.
So it'll give you an idea of or flavor of how a session works. Like after that, then we go into things like aspects, and like all these different things are all all these planets are talking to each other in different ways. And but yeah, it kind of gives you an idea.
Oh my God, literally, you guys, you have to get a reading with Deborah. Seriously, this has just been so good. I might actually get a soul navigation session with you, because it's cool. I love all this stuff.
It's mad because I'm always saying this, I think until the day I'll die, I'll be forever humble. Like I do Reiki, reflexology, I do my astrology, I do soul navigation, and the one thing I find over and over and over again is it's just bizarre how accurate it all is. Like I'm doing it, and it baffles me every time I do it. Like every time I do a session, I had a woman who was 71 years old. I think I said this to you in the last when we were talking the last time. 71 years old, didn't know her time of birth. Her parents were from Poland. They were slaves in the war, and they basically escaped to cross country and to go to America. And we worked out what her time was. We were able to figure out what time her chart was. And in it, the amount of information that she got back was just huge. But for me, I see a chart and I see all this information, but when I'm doing a session with somebody, the chart just comes alive completely. And then the stories of the things that I can see on the page start to kind of marry up with the person. And it's just phenomenal to see the changes. But it also helps people, because part of soul navigation is very much, if you don't know yourself, how can you live your life in accordance with your true path? And we're doing it anyway, but it would be quicker process if we get to know ourselves, and then you can peel back all the stuff that you're not, and just get on with the process. So when I'm doing, say, the soul navigation coaching, I'll do a soul navigation session, and then that shows me where they're at, who they are, what they're meant to be doing, what it is they need in this lifetime. I do career astrology as well. And then what we do then in the coaching is then we work on the things that have come up in line with what it is they're trying to achieve in their life to be able to move forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is, though. I can just watching you do come alive when you start reading and stuff, and you know, the chart, and like honestly the way that you talk changes and everything as well. But I totally get what you mean, because I have that with the Reiki as well. Like it happened the other day. I'm still not, you know, I think with all these things you're still learning every day, and there's some things that I've learned and then forgotten as well. So
yeah,
I had a lady on the bed, and I felt a blockage over a liver area, and so I knew that was like some anger, sort of old anger sort of held there. And then as I moved my hands a bit to do a bit more healing, my left thumb, middle finger, went crazy, like someone had stuck it in an electric socket. And I was like, now I know that the fingers mean different emotions, but I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So I said to her afterwards, I was like, look, my finger went mental. I've just got to find out what it is. So I went on the internet, typed it in, and it said
anger.
Anger.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, that was what my intuition was telling me before my finger even went mental. So I love it. I love all this.
But it's insane. Like, even though we're doing this, like, it's crazy that it all works, you know. I'm always just so humbled. I really am. I don't think I'll ever get tired of how magical. It's just so magical. Like, how can looking at a page and a load of glyphs in one place be able to tell you who this person is and how they were born and what their parents were like and what their kids are like and what their family is like, you know? It's insane. Like, you've kids, don't you?
Yeah, I've got two.
So kids are in the 5th house. So you'll find your first child is probably very Leo-like, very creative, maybe a little bit kind of capricious, a bit of a leader, likes to be center of attention, depending on what the rest of her chart is. But you'll find that she's very Leo-like. And then the other one's probably a little bit more kind of introverted, not maybe as outgoing, a little bit quieter, more analytical, because she'd be more Virgo, you know?
Yeah.
And then mum and dad are here. Like, you'll find mum and dad here as well. So mum or dad, one will be very Cancerian in terms of energy. So one of them, your mum or dad would be very, one would be very nurturing, motherly, smotherly, really caring, like maybe even a bit of a feeder. The other one's probably quite detached, aloof, very business minded, just wants to kind of like do the job, do the work, quite strict, a little bit authoritarian.
I can't say she's in this group, so
but
no comment, otherwise I'll get in trouble.
But isn't it interesting how you can see the dynamic? You can see the parents in it really clearly as well. And then we can see siblings. You know, your siblings are probably quite Gemini in nature, very, you know, if you have any siblings, they'd be very fact finding and like very social and like very like, you know, like to kind of be out gathering information, or, you know, so you can see literally. And then pets, you can see your pets.
Do you want me to tell you what he does?
Yeah,
he's the head of vehicle science for Aston Martin Formula One.
That's so funny, because Gemini that's so funny. Gemini rules travel. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules travel. So short distance travel versus long distance travel. So short distance travel is cars. Long distance travel will be aviation.
Right.
So that's so funny. And then pets, your pets are in the 6th house. So pets will be very Virgo, like very kind of like quiet and like kind of doing their own thing, looking after themselves. Very, but also quite like a little bit conservative, but loving in a very kind of like in their own kind of way.
Yeah, they do their own thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they were quiet though. I've got 2 budgies. They only ever start talking when I go live, or some, you know, somebody comes around.
But it's mad, isn't it? It's gas.
Yeah, they do their own thing. Yeah.
So there you go.
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm sorry, people, but I'm glad you didn't turn up, because I have made the most of it.
Yeah, serendipity. Serendipity.
Oh, me. Oh, thank you so much. And literally, thank you so much for this month, for doing this. You've absolutely blown me away. I've loved all of it. And watching all your videos and everything, and doing the challenge last week. And I've learned so much about myself. And it's just been brilliant. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I
hope you might come back and do a future month at some point. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. You can let people send me an email if they want at any stage if you have any questions, or to email you. I didn't put my I think I was saying last time I'm unplugged from everything online at the moment because I'm working on a secret plan in the background to release a few things shortly, but I'm on email, so if people want me, it's deborahjsoulnavigation@gmail.com.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely amazing.
No worries at all. We shall talk again soon.
I will. Have a lovely evening.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.